Alright, I'm back with the second part to this iceberg. And I know I said second part because part 2 is not in the title of this video. Because part 1 I don't really think is that good, and I would rather you watch this one first and then you can watch part 1 if you would like to, if you like to see the beginning of the iceberg, but it's not as good as this one, just to let you know that. And it's different from part 1 because this time I have a percentage in the bottom corner of the screen, and the percentage will show you how well I know of this topic or not. So if it's 100%, I know the topic, and if it's not 100%, I don't really know it that much. Also, there will be spoilers in the video if you haven't played the Stray game, and you might not care if you just want to watch an iceberg video, but just let y'all know. Anyways, let's get right into this. I'm an idiot. I missed some topics off from layer 3. I was supposed to do those topics in the last video, but we'll do them now, I guess. And let's get to it. The harness was for cats. In the beginning of the game, once you meet B12, B12 will give you this harness that he puts on you so you can carry him basically the entire game. And some people have said that this harness is like specifically made for small animals or a cat basically, because it fits the stray cat perfectly. As you can see, it fits him very perfectly to the point that it seems like the harness was just made for cats. B12 is still in the system. It's basically the cliffhanger for the game. As when you and B12 reach the command center, and to open the door, B12 tells you that for him to override the software so he can open the gates and the robots can see the outside, he tells you that to do this, it may kill the tiny drone robot he is in. And as he talks about how he is basically the last of humanity and he wants to carry the memory of humanity forward, he realizes that the companions or the robots are basically the future for the world. And as he falls to the ground and dies, Stray comes in to comfort the robot dead body, basically. And as the doors open and all the robots see what the outside looks like, Stray decides to leave, and as he leaves, the cliffhanger is that we don't know if Stray reunites with his cat friends. And the camera pans to the left, and you see the lights light up one last time, probably indicating that B12 is in the computer itself. Cat graffiti. Well, I don't really know what this is talking about to be honest, but I found this Reddit post that's talking about how this cat graffiti right here shows that how many days had been since whatever, and they did the math and it went that the game is 7 million years into the future, which is very mind-boggling to people, or some people. And as you see, these people were deciding and doing the math and everything to see if it's actually 7 billion years and like how many days has passed. Like there's a clock in the game that like it's 16 hours days instead of 24-hour days, so the days go faster, and that's how they came up with the days and how many years it became. And they did all the math and everything, so I'm pretty sure this is what it's talking about for cat graffiti. I hope so. Untitled song. Untitled song is a music sheet in the game that you can collect and give to Maresk for him to play. But as Maresk says, you can't really read the sheet music because it's just lines and everything. Here's what the music sheet should look like, and here's what the Untitled song looked like. Just a bunch of lines and everything, and it just sounds like a bunch of random notes being played. And here you can listen to it for yourself. The Stray is too smart. This is talking about how Stray is really smart somehow. He can understand B12 when he translates the robots for him. Another example is that when B12 gives him a task, Stray will do that perfectly. So how does Stray understand B12 and knows how to do all these things? That must mean he's a really smart cat. Dead robots is talking about how there are multiple dead robots scattered around the entire map, and we don't know how these robots have died. The only thing we have is that most of one robot we find is right beside B12 when we first find them, but we'll talk about that later. And yeah, this is talking about how there are multiple dead robots and we don't know how they got there. Zerg's hive mind. When you reach the sewer part of the game, you come across a lot of Zergs, as if they live there or something, in the sewers, as they come out of their eggs when you break it. And then you start to see these eyeballs on the walls of the sewer pipes. After a while of you using your UV rays to kill the Zergs to survive, B12 will say something like the eyeballs and everything might be connected to a host of some sort. Because every so often you'll hear a pulse sound, which may be the host's heartbeat you may be hearing. After a while, you will come across the host of the sewers. B12 looks with a shocking look as he is memorized by how the Zerg's bacteria came this far, leading to a chase where you have to leave the sewer. This is by far the scariest part of the game, where there is a hive mind just living in the sewers and just growing and waiting to be freed, but thankfully we don't have to go in there anymore. Too much garbage. In the slum city or the lower level of the game, there are a lot of garbage in this city. And there's also garbage in the ant village and the midtown area of the game, but the slum city has the most garbage. And the question is, where did the garbage come from? The garbage could have came from Neko Corporation probably, as they are the one that created the Zerg's virus to get rid of the garbage, I'm pretty sure. So the garbage could have came from Neko Corporation just dumping the garbage from the midtown city into the lower level. And speaking of Neko, other Neko GMO. If I'm being completely honest, I really don't know anything about this. Probably talking about how there's another bacteria alongside the Zerg bacteria. Robot cannibalism. This is talking about how, what do the robots eat and do they eat other robot parts? Well, there might be evidence for that. For example, I found this picture on Reddit and it showed a bowl full of RAM. So it might be that they're eating RAM or basically any other components of their body. Structure outside is perfectly preserved. This is probably talking about like outside the walled city 99 is probably everything in buildings and cities are probably perfectly preserved. Even though, like we talked about before, everything might be millions of years in the future, so I don't really believe this, but it's a cool thought to think about. Dead batteries. From what I could find in a midtown city, there's a robot who has a flashing dead battery image on his face, or where his face should be, meaning that his battery's dead. And that it could mean that he is dead, or I don't know if they can replace the battery to make him alive, because this robot here says that he sold him a faulty battery, probably meaning that he can replace the batteries, but he just died while working, I guess. No evidence of human children. Again, I really don't know this, but I did find the Reddit post that kinda explains it, I guess. It says, how do the companion children work? It's been shown that child versions of companions exist, and Doc is Seamus' dad. So are they just child-sized robot bodies that they build? Do they stay small? Do they change out the parts over time to mimic growth? Do they make them at full-grown size? This is a good question because we don't really know how did the robots become sentient and everything. So did the human children put their consciousness into kid robots, and did they just change out the robots over time to become grown robots, I guess? We don't really know anything about this stuff because the game doesn't really explain it that much, but it is a good thought to think about. Cat worship. And again, I said this like multiple times, I really don't know anything about this. I tried researching and looking up, trying to find Reddit posts and everything to see what cat worship means. But if I could go off of what I think it is, cat worship is probably talking about that. I have no clue. I really have no clue. That's it for this one. City 99 wasn't always sealed. This is most likely talking about the seal above the city as it's closed. So what if before the seal was there, like when the city was first built, what if the seal wasn't there? What if it wasn't sealed? That means the sky must have been out for no matter who knows how many years. But that's all this is talking about. What if it wasn't sealed when it first came out? Dead robot near stasis chamber. We know that B12 was a scientist before he trapped himself into the B12 body. But what if I told you that he was trying to put his mind into a real robot body, not the B12 body that we see? Well, before you find the B12 body, there's a robot body sitting by a stasis chamber, and the chamber which is supposed to preserve the life of anybody that is in it, which means the body of the scientist is probably in the chamber right now, and was there so he can put his mind into the robot, but along the way was trapped into the system of it. And then we come in to put him in the B12 body, because the robot body looks broken by how long it was sitting there. This is a pretty cool Easter egg to see in the game. To see the robot the scientist was trying to get in but failed is really cool to see. Midtown newspaper found in command center. When you enter the command center, there is a newspaper that has an article of Midtown on it, but you can't read it as it is unreadable to you. But the question is, why is there a Midtown newspaper in there in the first place? And there's also other newspapers in there as well. How did these newspapers get in there if no one has been in these for millions of years? Could these newspapers be from the humans that were there millions of years ago? But I guess we'll never know. Other vault cities. As we know that this city is called Walled City 99. So are there other cities like Walled City 1, 2, and 3 and so on? Well, we know that the humans built these walled cities to protect themselves from the dangers of the outside. But we don't know what the dangers were for them to go and build cities underground to be protected. And with this city being 99, I'm pretty sure we know that there are other cities out there with other robots, or even some more with humans that are still alive after the apocalypse. But I guess we'll never know, probably in the next game. Alright, this concludes the second part of my Stray Iceberg series and that I'm doing. And I don't know if I said this before, but you should watch part 1, even though it is pretty bad compared to this one right now. But you can watch if you wanted to. Also, part 3 will be longer than both of those videos combined because it has to cover the last 3.5 layers or so of content, and I might take a while explaining them. With that, I hope you like this one and stay for part 3 to see the end of the iceberg, and that you stick around for my content after the Stray series is done, because after this Stray series is done, I'll be doing other content that is different from the Stray series. And with that, I will see you in the next part, and see ya.